Good evening, and welcome to the second episode of our mental health web series here at Living Waters. We're very excited to have Debbie Friend with us this evening to talk about mindfulness and our New Year's resolutions. I want to say thank you to Advocate Good Shepherd Hospital's Congregational Outreach Program, who's partnering with us. We're very pleased to partner with Advocate Good Shepherd as Living Waters continues its focus of support for care, mind, body, and spiritual well-being, as well as mental health. This evening, Debbie Friend will provide us with innovative techniques on mindfulness, helpful tools for stress relief and management, something we could all use right now, I think, along with meditation techniques. These empowering tools will assist you in your new beginnings, resolutions for 2022, in fact. If you do want some of the materials from this evening, I can email you the handouts and materials that Debbie has been kind enough to provide us with for this evening. If you do have a question, just like last time, I want to make sure we're getting in the habit for this. If you do have a question, please send us a message in the comments, comment in the live feed. You can also message the church, Living Waters Lutheran, that's running the feed. If you want a question of a more private nature, we will have a Q&A at the end of Debbie's session with us here tonight. If you're watching this later than actual live, great. Thanks for checking it out. We're glad you could join us. You can still ask your questions as well, and we will forward them to Debbie for answers. So we're very excited to have this session this evening for all of you being here, and I'm going to turn it over to Debbie. Thank you.
Thank you again, Pastor Zach, for that warm welcome. Tonight, I'm going to be speaking to you about stress, how to relieve it, mindfulness, some meditation techniques, and resolutions and intentions for the new year. Next slide, please. Our agenda, as I was just mentioning, we're first going to be talking about stress, mindfulness, meditation, and resolutions and intentions. Next slide. Before we get started, I have some questions that you might want to ponder as we're going through this session and keep track of what they are, so as we're going through the slides, I know the answers are going to pop up for you. Some questions are, what is one source of stress? Can stress be good for you? How can mindfulness be practiced during the day? What is the benefit of meditation? And the final question is, are most New Year's resolutions successful? Next slide. What is stress? I know we are all probably experiencing it a lot these days with everything that is going on. But a simple definition of what stress is, it's our body's reaction to any change that it must adapt to. Next slide. And this actually can come from four basic sources. One is the environment, and this would be traffic, the weather, pollen, noise, or pollution. The second one would be social stressors, and this would be the demands for your time and your attention. It could be financial worries, it could be deadlines at work, and it can even be due to a loss of a loved one. The third would be physiological. This would be illness, aging, lack of sleep, poor nutrition, yet not getting enough exercise, and injuries, and for women, menopause, going through menopause. And the fourth one, which is thoughts. This is how we perceive what's going on in our life right now. It's fretting over the past, or it's worrying about the future. And I'm going to go out on a limb here and say that I feel that our thoughts are our major cause of stress. I see Pastor Zach shaking his head, and I'm going to explain why in a little bit. Next slide, please. Imagine, I'm going to ask you all to use your imaginations for this one. Picture that it's actually a beautiful, sunny spring day. And the temperature is about 75 degrees. It's gorgeous. It's in the middle of afternoon. Picture also that you're not at home, but you're here at the church, and that we are going to be taking a little trip. I have a bus waiting outside. Again, we're just using our imaginations for this. And we are going to be taking a ride to Great America. The reason is because our group has been chosen to test a brand new roller coaster. It hasn't even been invented yet. This is just a prototype. And it's going to have the steepest rises and the largest drops and the most twists and turns of any roller coaster. It's even going to have a G-force that they have not experienced in space yet. And we are the chosen ones to test this out. We all have to go. After we get off the ride, there's going to be a group of people who are going to say, oh my gosh, this was so wonderful, it's exciting. I am so glad that I had this opportunity to be able to go on this ride. Can't wait to do it again. And then there's going to be a second group who's going to say, this was good, it was interesting, might do it again, might not. And then there's going to be that third group of people who are going to get off this ride and be pale and shaking, sick to their stomach, kissing the ground because they survived. Well, how is this possible? Because we've all just experienced the same exact roller coaster at the same exact time. So how could there be such a varied response? And the reason is because stress is individual. And what's stressful to one person is not stressful to another. And it's never, can we go back? So it's never the situation that we're in, but it's how you respond to it. And that's really the basis for where I'm going to be going in this whole talk. So how violently or how calmly someone responds to a stressful situation is because of how they are trained to respond to it. In other words, it's a learned response. And because it's a learned response, it's under our control and it can be changed. Now the next slide. Thank you so much. Any problem, real or perceived, that stimulates our body to cause our brain to stimulate our sympathetic nervous system to release a series of changes in our body. And this includes our heart rates go up, our breathing rate, our blood pressure goes up, our muscles become tense, our metabolism rises, while at the same time our hands and feet get cold and our diaphragm locks down. Blood is directed away from the digestive system and it goes to the large muscles so that we can either fight or flee or run away from the problem. We get that butterfly sensation in our stomach and our pupils dilate so that they can sharpen our vision, and our hearing also becomes more acute. And this actually happens whether we're experiencing the extreme of physical danger to the other end of the spectrum where we are in total exhilaration. Imagine that we just won the Mega Millions. Our body reacts the same way. Interestingly enough, even if these things are not happening, but we're thinking about them, we go through exactly the same thing. And after the stress or the excitement is over, it takes between 20 to 60 minutes for our bodies to return back down to baseline. Next slide. So is there such a thing as good stress? We all talk about stress and the negative effects of stress. And yes, there is. It's called Eustress, and that's spelled Eustress. And this is positive stress as opposed to distress, which causes us problems. We actually do need to have eustress or some stress in our life, as long as it's not overwhelming and it's short term. Because think about if you're going to be giving a presentation or you're participating in an athletic event or you have some major project that you're working on, having that little bit of stress and excitement and adrenaline flowing is actually a good thing because it motivates you, it focuses your attention, it feels exciting, it improves your performance, you get energized for doing this, it enhances your concentration, and these are all wonderful things to have in the short term. Think about not having a reason to wake up in the morning, or not having any challenges to overcome, or not having any things to look forward to in life. Life would be boring, and this can lead to depression. So having a little bit of stress is actually a good thing for all of us. Next slide. On the other hand, Chronic stress is when you experience stress over and over and over again, and it doesn't go away. And we call chronic stress anything that lasts over a month or more. And in this, all the things that I talked about before for the fight or flight response, all of these things keep going and going and going, and our bodies don't have a chance to get back to baseline. And when that happens, is we actually start to burn out. And burnout is a real term. It's physiological, it's emotional, and it's a mental exhaustion. So what happens, as I was saying, is that our adrenal glands continue to pump out all the stress hormones, the epinephrine, the norepinephrine, and the adrenaline. And this keeps our body in that state of chronic fight or flight. Next slide. And what are some of the long-term effects of stress? Hard for me to see. I'm going to read the side. We can have, for physically, we're going to get GI problems, and we're going to get heart problems, and let's see, our muscles stay tense. We get headaches. You probably can read this better at home than I can see. So, okay, Pastor Zach will read us for us.
Oh.
Thank you very much. And let's go to the next slide. And we're going to share what some of the emotional and mental effects of chronic stress are. And Pastor Zach, if I can ask you to read some more for me. And some of these unhealthy coping strategies include smoking, drinking, use of drugs that we resort to when we can't find healthier ways to cope. Next slide. Now we know what stress is and what happens to the long-term effects. There's a number of different techniques that people can use to help relieve the stress in daily life. And mindfulness, which is something we're going to be talking about in a little bit, is something that hopefully we can get more of in our lives on a daily basis. And I'm going to ask Pastor Zach to read what's written on this slide as well. What
Mindfulness means paying attention in a particular way, on purpose, in the present moment, and non-judgmentally.
Thank you. And that quote is from John Kabat-Zinn. And if people are not familiar with who he is, he's the executive founding director of the Center for Mindfulness at the University of Massachusetts Medical School. And he created this whole program on mindfulness, and it has so many wonderful benefits, which we will be discussing. But in real simple terms, what mindfulness is practicing being present in the present moment. And I'm going to explain a lot more what that means as we go on with the next slide. Sure.
For folks at home letting me know they couldn't hear me on these slides, so I'm going to read these again real quick. Physical effects of long-term stress include headaches, gastrointestinal problems, high blood pressure, heart disease and stroke, decreased immunity, and muscle tension. And the emotional mental effects of chronic stress include mood swings, anxiety and depression, short temper, exhaustion, easily frustrated, and unhealthy coping strategies.
Thank you very much. And as we're talking about mindfulness, I like this because there is no time like the present, and actually there is no time but the present. And this makes me think of another saying that I'm sure many of you are familiar with, which is, yesterday is history, tomorrow's a mystery, today is a gift, and that's why we call it the present. Next slide. And what are some of these benefits of mindfulness that we can achieve? Pastor Zach, let us know what these benefits of mindfulness include.
These include reduces stress and anxiety, improves sleep, reduces physical pain, increases enjoyment of life, increases self-awareness and insight, and behavior modifier, PTSD/smoking/drinking or drug use.
Thank you so much. Let's go to the next slide. And can you read what that one says for us?
Each morning we are born again. What we do today is what matters most. From the Buddha.
And this is what mindfulness is all about. It's about being in the present moment. But it's also knowing that what happened yesterday is over, it's done with. We can't take yesterday with us. Let's focus in on what we can do today and not worry so much about what's going to happen tomorrow, because as we said in the last slide, all we have is what is happening right here and now. And every day that we get up, it's a new opportunity to try to do better than what we did the day before. Next slide. All right, so these are some mindfulness principles, and the first one would be non-judgment. What this means is it's not judging an experience as either good or bad. Just notice the experience, accept it, and move on. The next one is patience, and this means understand and accept that things will unfold in their own time. Non-striving. There is no goal other than being yourself. Just be. Or as the Beatles profoundly sang years and years ago, let it be. And if you think of the song and the words, how much that means about being mindful in the present moment. Letting go. Let go of all of our expectations of ourself, of others, and of life, and being with what just is in the here and now. Acceptance. Acceptance doesn't mean that you have to like or you have to love what's going on, or saying, I give up, this is how it is. Acknowledge what is happening in the present moment, but understand that whatever is the present reality is as it is right now, not for the next month, not for the next year, or not for the rest of your life. And then finally, trust. Trust yourself and your feelings. The wisdom and compassion that we need are already in us. Remember Gilda, the Good Witch in The Wizard of Oz, when she said to Dorothy, you had the power all along, my dear, and we all have the power inside ourselves as well. Next slide. Wandering mind. All of our minds wander. In fact, 47% of the time our minds wander. So you might be sitting here watching me right now, and you might be thinking about what you're going to make for dinner, or what's going to happen tomorrow, or what happened 2 weeks ago. And this is normal. Our thoughts tend to wander all the time. But part of mindfulness is simply learning to train your mind to stay in the here and now, where we already are. Next slide. Thoughts. We have so many thoughts in our mind that occur. I just read a study that the average individual has approximately 6,000 individual thoughts every day. That's a lot of thinking that's going on in our minds. And thoughts by themselves don't have any power, but it's the emotions that we attach to our thoughts. That's what gives them the power to either be negative and to hurt us, or to be positive and to help our lives become fulfilling and happy and stress-free. Next slide. The wisdom of peanuts. Worrying won't stop the bad stuff from happening, but it just stops you from enjoying all that's good. And worrying is another topic that I just wanted to bring up, because I've heard it said that worrying is praying for what you don't want. And why that is because when we focus all of our attention on something that we're afraid is going to happen, and by the way, most of the things we worry about actually don't wind up coming to fruition. But when that's all that occupies your mind, instead of what you're wanting, you're actually putting out there what it is that you don't want. So worrying is probably one of the worst things that we can do and causes a lot of stress in our lives. Next slide. There's actually a space between stimulus and the response. And Viktor Frankl, I don't know if you're familiar with who he is. He wrote the book Man's Search for Meaning. He was a Holocaust survivor. He survived Auschwitz, the death camp, and he experienced so many atrocities and witnessed things that most of us hopefully never have to encounter in life. But he did it in such a way that he had this positive attitude about coming out of it. And this quote's been attributed to him, where he says, between stimulus and response, there's a space. And in that space lies our power to choose our response. In our response lies our growth and freedom. So many of us are so used to having something happen, you have a knee-jerk response, and then we respond to it in a certain way. But what Viktor Frankl is saying is that each of us, when something happens, take a breath, take a space, and see, are you going to react or are you going to respond to whatever just happened? It's like I said earlier, when it comes to stress, it's never the situation, but it's how you respond to it. So next slide. And this is another way of which you can practice relieving your stress with a technique that's called the Stop Practice for Stress. It was created by Alicia Goldstein, who is a psychologist, and he also is a mindfulness specialist. The recommendations are, it's an acronym for STOP. You want to stop what you're doing and get into a comfortable position. So this is something that you want to practice in your spare time, your leisure time, before you're actually in a situation, so that when you get good at this, when something is happening, you'll be able to immediately be able to do this in the trying situation. And then you want to breathe. Take a few deep breaths. And with each exhalation, allow your body just to soften. So we want to just take that space and give ourselves a chance just to unwind and relax a little bit. And then you want to observe. You want to allow yourself to be aware of your experience in the moment. So how are you feeling physically? What's going on for you mentally and emotionally? Just take a few minutes just to see where you are and what's happening with your body. And the final step is you want to proceed. And you want to proceed with compassion for what's most important for you right now. So you might want to ask yourself, what can I be doing to take care of myself right now? What do I need tonight? What do I need in the next week? What do I need in the next month? And if you can practice that, it will help alleviate some of the stress, because taking care of yourself is one of the most important things that we can do. Next slide. And there's 5 simple ways to practice mindfulness in your daily life. It's not necessarily that you have to spend a certain amount of time where you sit down and you're just going to eliminate everything that's going on and just be mindful in the moment. But there's things that you can do every day to be mindful of what's going on. One is walking. So many things that we do in life we just take for granted, and we seem to go through the motions and don't know how we got there. Simply taking a moment when you're walking, whether it's to throw out the garbage or to get your mail, or you're walking around the store, really consider what's happening and what you're going through at that moment. The same thing with arriving, and this would be the transition from leaving one place to arriving at another place. So think, you know what, I'm just leaving my house, I'm getting into my car, I just arrived at the destination, this is what's going to be happening when I get there. But really feel and be in the present moment, and don't let your mind wander to a number of different things, such as what's going to happen once you get home or what happened yesterday. Really just stay in the moment of what you're doing. And checking in. This is checking in with your body several times during the day, seeing how you feel. Do you have any pains, any sensation anywhere in your body? Are you hot? Are you cold? What's going on mentally and emotionally with yourself? And this isn't about judging or putting anything more to it, just other than acknowledging that this is what I'm feeling right here and right now. And eating. How many people mindlessly eat and don't pay any attention to what's going on? Oftentimes we might be sitting, I see one hand in the audience here. How often have you sat down to watch television with a bag of chips, and the show is over and all the chips are gone and you don't know what happened to all of the chips because you were just sitting there and it's one thing after another, but not paying attention to what you were eating. So one way to eat mindfully is before you eat, look at what you're going to eat. Examine what's in front of you. Smell in the aromas and look at what's happening. And then when you go to eat, look at your fork or look at your spoon and see what's on it and see what does this look like. And as you put it in your mouth, actually savor the taste of what am I eating. Notice the consistency of what it is and how it feels in your mouth, how it feels going down. But really make this a whole experience about being mindful of what you're eating. And then repeat and do that over and over so that you're conscious and that you're aware of being able to enjoy and savor the meal instead of rushing through so that you can get through to something else without even tasting or noticing what you've eaten. And another one is driving. I mean, how many people get in their car every day and they get somewhere and they don't even realize how they got there or remember what happened along the way, what stops it. Some things become so rote in our lives that they're just such a habit, we don't really think about it. So next time when you get into your car, imagine putting your hands on your steering wheel and look to see even just those micro movements, those micro turns that your hands make just to keep the wheel steady. What's happening on the road, the other cars on the road, the stop signs, the lights, everything around you. And it becomes much more of an experience where you are a part of what you're doing instead of just going through the motions of life. Next slide. And mindfulness, their studies have shown that mindfulness can actually change your brain in a lot of good ways. So the first one, it reduces the size of your amygdala, and the amygdala controls your emotions in your life. And it's actually better to have a smaller amygdala. In some cases, less is more. So having a smaller amygdala is good. And people who are emotionally reactive and always stressed tend to have bigger amygdalas, while those can be reduced with regular mindful practice. So you can actually reduce the size of your amygdala and make changes to your brain just by practicing mindfulness. The second, and here's where it's a good thing to have more, so you want to increase your left hippocampus thickness. And this area of the brain is involved with learning, memory, and emotional regulation, and it also increases your gray matter. And this is about perspective taking, having more empathy and compassion for other people. And can't we all just use a little bit more about that in these trying times that we're experiencing? And the good news is that even just 5 minutes of mindfulness-based stress reduction can change your brain. It's only 5 minutes a day. I don't feel like I'm doing an infomercial or anything, but imagine this, just 5 minutes a day, and you could get all these positive effects on your brain. Next slide, please. And if you would be able to read this for me, Pastor Zach.
When thinking about life, remember this: no amount of guilt can solve the past, and no amount of anxiety can change the future.
So as we think about mindfulness, and sometimes we are just so hard on ourselves, we're our own worst enemies no matter what's going on. But if we can have a little bit more compassion for what we're going through and know that the past is in the past, no matter what happened, we can't change it. And what's going to happen in the future, we don't know what's going to happen in the future yet. And all we really have is the present moment. And we can focus in on how we make the best out of the time that we're in right now. Next slide, please. So we talked about mindfulness, and another technique that's really useful for alleviating a lot of the stress that we have in our life is meditation. And meditation is a set of techniques that are intended to encourage a heightened state of awareness and focused attention. So what does that mean in simple English? We want to be present in the moment and just notice that we have thoughts and just be aware and let them pass. So let me give you an example. Have you ever climbed a mountain and looked out over the view and saw something so magnificent? Or looked at a beautiful, beautiful sunset and marveled at what you saw? Or even just looked at a tiny newborn baby and just was so mesmerized by the moment that in those times, all you were thinking about was what you were experiencing. You weren't concerned about all the stress in your life. You weren't concerned about the bills that you have to pay. You weren't thinking about maybe a promotion that you were overlooked a few months ago, but you're living in that moment and you're living in awe. And while we can't always go to the mountain and we can't always see a beautiful sunset or look into a baby's eyes, we can capture that moment through meditation. And let's go to the next slide. And how do we prepare our mindset for meditation? Well, there's three things that we should do. We should have patience, and we should just accept where you are on your journey and allow the thoughts to come and go into your mind. Nobody's going to be perfect at this in the beginning, and even people who have been practicing meditation for a while still aren't perfect, and that's why it's called a practice, because we get to practice it over and over every day. The second is non-judgment for yourself. Remove all expectations. You're not going to be perfect at it. It's just to get yourself into a new level and a new understanding. And choose to let negative thoughts go. We're constantly bombarded by the negative. And that's one of the ways we have actually been geared because of this fight or flight response, that our bodies, when we were cavemen, were attuned to all the negative things that could come up in life, and we were able to either fight or we were able to run away. Well, we still, even though society has changed and we're not out living as cavemen anymore, but we still maintain that within ourselves where we're always on the lookout for danger so that we can be able to respond. That comes naturally for us. What doesn't come naturally is to respond with being calm and stress-free and how to handle a situation in a different light. And the third way is a willingness to meditate. So if you're going to think of practicing meditation, remember why you want to meditate. Have that in mind, that there's a reason why you're choosing to do this. And then commit to finding the calm space. And if and when you practice and you're able to get to the point where you're just become an observer of your thoughts, because thoughts and distractions are always going to be a part of our mind. But if you can get to that point, and again, it takes a lot of practice to be able to say, oh, you know what, there's a thought. I'm just going to let it pass just like a cloud, and I'm going to go for that space where I can just get that sense of awe and quiet and stillness in my life. Next slide. And just like mindfulness, there's a lot of benefits that have been proven for meditation. And among these are, it can help reduce anxiety and depression. It alleviates stress. It improves your immune system, and we could all use an improved immune system right about now. It regulates your blood pressure. It lowers your blood glucose levels. It bolsters your heart and your brain health. It enhances your sleep quality, and it increases your mental focus. So next slide. How do we meditate? Well, here's a few tips to get started. You want to find a quiet place. And then you want to set aside time every day. And you could start with 5 minutes. You can even start for less than that in the beginning. But 5 to 10 minutes that you're going to just allow yourself this gift of meditation. And while you're sitting there, if thoughts drift out, if your thoughts start to wander, just gently guide them back to where you want to be in the moment. Be very patient and gentle with yourself. Again, this is a practice. Every day is not going to be perfect, and that's okay, because this is life and things aren't always going to go the way that we would anticipate. But if we could get back to practicing being kind and gentle to ourselves and allowing ourselves this opportunity, that it's going to take time to see the results of meditation. When we live in a society where we want instant gratification. We want to know that if I'm going to exercise today, I want to see that I'm all of a sudden got muscle tone and I can run a marathon, and it doesn't happen like that. It takes time. So we have to be gentle, and we're not going to necessarily get the effects of meditation the very first time that we sit down and try to meditate. It is a practice, and it's something that you cultivate as you go on and on and on. And again, all the results that I talk about are going to work best when you have a committed practice. Next slide. But you don't always have to just sit and find a place where it's quiet, where you can sit down and meditate and watch the thoughts go by and get to that space in between the thoughts. There's a number of other ways that you can bring meditation into your life. And one is by doing deep breathing techniques. When people are stressed, they tend to breathe very shallowly and from the upper portion of their chest and breathe very fast and can hyperventilate. Some people even wind up in the emergency room thinking that they're having a heart attack, but it's only that the oxygen and the carbon dioxide levels are not being balanced, and they put themselves in a stressful situation. So by deep breathing and breathing slowly, you can get your body to calm down, and you can get into a meditative state this way as well. Mindfulness meditation, it's being, again, aware of the moment. Where are you right now? What's happening in your life? Checking in, doing this on a regular basis to see how you're feeling, and just be an observer of what's happening. You don't have to have the answers. You don't have to try to change anything, but just be aware of what's going on. A mantra is either a word or a syllable or a phrase that when you are trying to meditate and you know these thoughts are going to go through your mind, you'll always go back to this mantra. And by bringing the mantra back into your mind, whatever it is, if it's calmness or if it's peace or love or whatever the word that you're going to do, the phrase, that no matter what's happening in your mind and you are going to be distracted, that's just a given, always coming back to that one word and trying to focus and center over there. Being in nature is one of the most wonderful ways that we can practice mindfulness in our lives. There's so many forest preserves in the area, and if you just walk out there and use all of your senses as you're there and see what's going on, and you can feel the ground, the gravel underneath your feet, and hear the birds and the animals going by and touch, and it's just such a way to stay in the present moment and be mindful of the things that we tend to overlook and take for granted in life. Going for a walk. Walking has been described as meditation in motion. And a lot of times when we are walking, it's able to clear our mind, we're able to focus, we're able to think, and we're able to see things clearly that we couldn't do when we're busy in all the aspects of our life. And listening to music. When you have a song that's peaceful and calming, and you just sit back and you listen to that, that also helps you become mindful and meditate on the moment. Next slide. So we've talked about mindfulness and we've talked about meditation, and it's the brand new year. 2022 just started. 2021 is so last year at this point. So what are we going to do? A lot of people, what they do is they make a resolution, and they say, this year I'm going to do, and fill in the blank with whatever it is. And it's actually a good thing to have a resolution, because the new year, it signifies a new beginning. So let's have a clean slate. Let's start fresh. And it's a wonderful time to look at the changes that we would like to make in our lives and how we can accomplish them. And then think of resolutions like promises to ourselves that we want to improve our lives and to make the next year a better one for ourselves and for everyone else. So having a resolution is actually, it's a good way to start the new year. Next slide, please. And they're important to do. And the reason is because they create individualized challenges. It's an opportunity to explore your potential and to grow as a person. It compels you to take stock of where you are and how you can improve. And you take a step towards positive change. Next slide. Okay, all this sounds so wonderful and it sounds fantastic, but actually the reality is 92% of all New Year's resolutions fail. And there's a few reasons why this happens. One, because there's a lack of willpower, and maybe you don't have the belief in your ability to actually achieve what you desire to change. Just wanting it isn't enough. You have to take action. You have to have a plan on how this is going to be possible. If you're not prepared to develop and maintain the necessary commitment to succeed, your goal might be too hard to accomplish. Maybe you set out to do something that really isn't going to be happening. Or you can lose interest in the motivation to do it. Next slide. So I'd like you to consider a shift in our thinking. So instead of thinking about let's making a New Year's resolution, let's see what kind of intentions we can set for ourselves for the coming year. The most common resolutions that people have are to lose weight, to spend less money, and get organized. And I'm going to deviate here a little bit. In the past, before the pandemic, you'd always see advertisements for health clubs. Get in shape and make this the year that it's going to happen. And there's a little secret behind what's going on. Health clubs know that people get really motivated at the start of the year, and people are gung-ho to do it. But they're banking on the fact that your New Year's resolution is going to fail, and after a couple of months, you're not going to come back. And this works to their benefit because they now have all these members. But think, if everybody who set a New Year's resolution to go work out at the gym actually went, you'd have no room in a class. You wouldn't be able to get on any of the equipment. And the equipment would be breaking down so often that it wouldn't even be worth your while to go. So they're playing on this fact that people are not going to follow through with their resolutions. So instead, again, of setting a resolution, why don't you consider what your intentions are behind it? Instead of saying, I'm going to lose weight, think about, what do I want to feel better about in my body? If I lose weight, what's going to change in my life? And look at that instead of, I'm going to lose X amount of pounds by a certain amount of date. Think about what positive results are going to happen if I do, and focus on that and not on the resolution. And another one is to spend less money. So instead of spending the money, think, well, maybe I'll have peace of mind knowing that my money is going to last through my retirement. Or to get organized. You can stop wasting time looking for things in the morning as opposed to just saying, I'm just going to get organized. So instead of thinking about the resolution, come up instead with a list of what do you want to change in your life over the coming year, and how can you make subtle little changes to make that happen so that you get the results that you are looking for. Next slide. And the way to do this is to focus on the process and not the result. So resolutions like lose weight and get organized, they're completely focused on a result without pinpointing the process of how you're going to go about doing it. And when the focus is on the process instead of the outcome, the results are much better. In fact, studies have shown that salespeople who have been focusing on the process, how they're going to make a sale as opposed to the goal of how many sales they're going to make, are actually much more successful in the long run. So the focus of resolutions should be on the process, that the infinite present moments, which we've been discussing all along about being mindful and being in the present, how each infinite present moment in which the transformation will occur. So how do we change our lives every day in the moment instead of focusing on the single instance of when it's attained? So in other words, it's about the journey and not the destination, and make every day your journey. And next slide. With that, the question is, the year is yours. What will you do with it? I'd like to put into practice a little bit about everything that we've been talking about and ask for about 5 minutes of your time where we're going to do a guided meditation to help set a New Year's intention and not a resolution. And again, to clarify, an intention, it's a clear idea of where we're going, but we're not being too attached to doing it in a particular way or at a particular time. And when we are mindful and we're meditating and we have these moments of quiet, it's actually a kind of recognition of something important and something that's valued. Maybe just being quiet with ourselves can help us work out what our real intentions are. What I'd like you to do is get comfortable, sit comfortably in a chair, and find a balanced position with your feet both firmly planted on the floor, your weight equally distributed with your sit bones. Keep your spine tall. Have your hands resting comfortably in your lap with your palms facing up. And allow your eyes to gently close. I'd like you to become aware of your body. Notice how you're feeling in this present moment. And I'd like you to notice your presence in the room. And then even an awareness of what's happening outside of the room. Next, notice any thoughts or any feelings that arise. And just let them come and let them go without having to do anything about them. Just take a moment and notice just what's happening, the thoughts. Now I'd like you to start to tune in to what might be an intention for you for this coming year. And in the silence and in the quiet, see what comes up for you. Too often our minds just get so busy and we try to work out what the right or the wrong thing is, or we try to decide on how things should be. But instead, this is just going to be much more about listening to that inner voice. And you can almost imagine a space of awareness as we are just quieting down, allow sounds to come and go, and let your body and your mind just be right as they are right now. And what we're doing, we're creating a big space for awareness. We're going to concentrate with a sense of listening. We don't need to do anything or make anything happen. We just have to allow it to be. And you might now be just having a sense of being in that space. You might just imagine a tiny piece of paper, and on that paper, write, what's my intention for this year? Really think about what your intention is. And you might just imagine holding that piece of paper up to a light for a moment, and then letting it go. Allow it to sink down to the depths of your being. Right now, you're not trying to do anything, and you're not trying to figure anything out. Just wait. Wait for an answer to arise from deep within you. What would you like this year to be about? What's your intention? How would you like to live your life this year? What is most important to you? What is most aligned with the deepest parts of you? And when that pure sense of what that intention is arises, just let it sit and allow your mind to just rest with that. It may be an awareness of it just resting in your mind. And it may even be an awareness of things rising in the mind that's in opposition. The mind has something to say about it. Just notice those thoughts too. Let them come and let them go. And continue to allow that intention to just rest in your mind. You want to let the other moments, the other waves of the mind pass by, and with that intention clear, consider at the end of this meditation, what would you do? Just take the first step, bringing that intention into your life. The first step towards realizing that intention. And now, open your eyes. It's time to move along with your day. And find some way to take that intention with you. Whatever way it showed up, whether it was clear or vague or is still emerging, take it with you as an inquiry. How can I leave this intention in my life in this moment right now? And may your day and all the days coming forward be mindful, and may your intention come to fruition. Thank you so much. Pastor Zach?
You, Debbie, that was wonderful. Thank you so much. Are you ready for a Q&A?
Yes, I
All right.
am.
All right, we got a couple that folks messaged in. So the first was about, was it eustress?
Uh-huh.
Okay. Should we intentionally pursue eustress or not?
Well, eustress comes up naturally in our lives. We haven't really identified it or defined it as such as eustress, but think about, let's say, a football team who's about ready to compete in the Super Bowl. And they're going to go out and they're going to be fired up, and their adrenaline's going to be up, and they're going to be prepared. Think about if they just went out there, it's like, okay, no big deal. I don't have to care what's going on. Think about when you're about to do something in life and do you feel like your heart's speeding up and your breathing getting faster and you're getting excited and you're getting motivated and you're getting focused? That should be a part of doing something that is challenging, or presentation, or participating in something. So I don't think necessarily that we have to look for it. I think it's there. But just might not have been paying attention. And again, eustress is good when it's not overwhelming and it's of short term.
All right, thank you. Another question we had is, what is gray matter and why do I want more of it?
Well, I don't want to go into a whole physiology of our brains, but gray matter is a portion of our brains, and the more that we have, as I said, it increases areas of our life, it enhances our empathy and our compassion. And so, yes, we do want more of that. We want to be able to develop certain areas of our brain so that we can live healthy and happy and more fulfilling lives. And there's areas of our brain that if we exercise them and think of it, it's like exercising a muscle or anything else. The more we use it, the better we are. And I can't quote directly what it is, but by using all the different areas of our brain in a positive way helps us to maintain our cognitive function as we grow older, and helps maybe prevent developing dementia. But I don't want to be quoting things. So yes, you do want to increase your gray matter, just like you would like to increase your muscles of your body so that they get stronger and they function better.
That does sound good. This isn't really a question, but just a little advertisement for folks who are watching. We do have a woods area behind the congregation that's open for folks to use if you want to do that walking, meditation. We do have an Eagle Scout putting in a prayer labyrinth in there as well, so it's kind of like a walking meditation, one of the things that Debbie was talking about, so I do want folks to know about that. I have a question.
Sure.
Would you consider prayer to fall underneath the meditation category?
That's a very interesting question, and I didn't touch on it earlier in my presentation. But are you familiar with Deepak Chopra? Okay, he's a spiritual guidance counselor who's big in the spiritual community. And one time, and he and Oprah had put together a set of meditations, a sequence of events that were for 21 days. Oprah had asked him, what's the difference between prayer and meditation? And the way, I love the answer, and what Deepak Chopra answered to her was, when we pray, we talk to God. And when we meditate in the silence in between our thoughts, this is where God answers. And we either get an intuition or something comes up. So that's how I think is a really good definition and the difference between prayer and meditation. Prayer is when we ask, we put it out to God for what we want or what we're praying for. And then in those moments of silence when we're sitting there, this is when we receive our answers.
Very profound. Thank you. I love it. That's going to be in a sermon. All right. I'm not seeing any other questions coming in. So we'll give people another couple seconds here, but I'll use this time to advertise. Our next mental health forum will be on February 14th. Oh, how about that? And that will be with Alyssa from Turning Point talking about teen dating and healthy relationships. Turning Point being the domestic violence agency here in McHenry County. So please join us for that. We again want to thank Debbie for her wonderful presentation this evening with mindfulness and meditation. And I didn't know 92% of resolutions fail. I feel kind of better about mine from last year now. So that was good. So I'm already going to be practicing this stuff as I drive home tonight. So thank you so much.
My pleasure. And if anybody has any questions, please send them to Pastor Zach, and he could forward them to me, and I'd be happy to answer them.
Perfect. We're going to close our session tonight in a word of prayer. Holy God, we thank you for this time together to learn about how these minds and the bodies that you've given us work, to be able to best live healthy and holy in this life every single day, to be present in this moment, to be present in all things that we do. We ask for your help and guidance with this. We give you thanks for just all the wonderful things that we can do to help our health, but also to fully live life to its fullest potential. We give you thanks and look forward to our future endeavors here together. In your name we pray. Amen. Well, thank you, everyone, for tuning in whenever this is. We got a couple thank yous in the chat, Debbie. So,
pleasure.
People were happy. So, yes, if you're watching this live or later, thank you for joining us. And like I said, these are all available on our mental health website as well. Have a good night, everyone. God bless.